So I'm Dave. I'm not going to give a big introduction. You're going to know me really, really well by the end of this conversation. What I want to say first, this is going to be very real. It's going to be very raw, and I want to invite you to go there with me. I'm going to trust you with a lot of vulnerability, and I want you to trust me with that as well. And I'm going to trust you to be able to handle the weight of it, the gravity of it. Even where it includes some probably painful and poignant triggers. I commend you guys all for your interest in mental health and the work that a lot of you want to and probably will be doing in not that long. So open up your hearts and minds for the next hour or so and go there with me. So before you get to know me, I want to introduce you to somebody else through a poem that I wrote, somebody who I used to know a few years ago.
His eyes could stare straight into yours, the way honest ones do. You'd never have known the sadness they concealed. Oh, and that smile. It was crisp and radiant, like genuine ones are. You couldn't have guessed what he longed to say. But now his eyes are closed forever, and that smile has melted away. Finally, they tell the truth. His depression was invisible, his addiction hidden, but the diseases swallowed him right up with the cruel indifference of a raging fire.
I knew I'd cry at some point. I didn't think it was going to be 5 minutes in. Robbie was really bright. Robbie was funny. He was charismatic. He was one of those guys that lit up the room. His potential was boundless. His gifts were abundant. But he needed help, and he never received it. At this point in my life, I'm 44, and I've had four people very close to me pass away, peers my age. People that I grew up with or became close with who passed away way too early. Two of them, Ali Reza and Michael, died from cancer. And Robbie and Adam both took their own lives, both in their late 30s. That's half. They both suffered from mental illness and addiction, and neither were in treatment. I'm telling you about Robbie and Adam because they're someone you know, as am I. I'll put the notes down for a second. I'm just going to tell you my story and how I came to be here in front of you right now. I grew up in the Bay Area, grew up in Oakland, went to high school in San Francisco, took one extra credit genetics class my summer before senior year. I was growing up, I am hard of hearing. I grew up with hearing aids, and I did struggle in school a bit. And at home life was difficult. There's a lot of alcoholism in my family. So between doing badly in school and not being able to hear and growing up in a house that was pretty traumatic at times, I struggled quite a bit. And then I started getting into drinking myself, like 8th grade, and was experimenting with drinking and smoking and got into, one thing happened where I got into serious trouble. And I was terrified at home, punishment, and it actually scared me straight for a little bit. And that was the beginning of high school, and it was actually school that got me out of it. I got really excited about school. I got excited about history class, about English class, and it lit a fire. And probably for the first time in my life, I felt very good about myself. I didn't feel shame, and I'm like 15, 16 years old, And that was the first time that I didn't feel like a heavy sense of shame. It's a long time, but it's how a lot of us grew up. That's a generation of parenting where shame was the tool used. That's what they learned before from their parents. But I was doing good, and I got into college, and I got into Dartmouth out in New Hampshire, where it's fucking freezing. Wow. I remember that the first time I stepped off the bus after being home for Christmas break, it blew my mind. -20, I'd never felt anything like that. But college was off to a good start, and like I joined the crew team. I thought that was a thing you do in like a New England school, and I was doing well in school. And like sometime around like my sophomore, junior year, something started to change, and I couldn't put my finger on it, but I started having these, like I just thought they were moods, I'm like, woke up on the wrong side of bed, but it was different. Like, it would be so that I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. I physically couldn't move, right? And it wasn't a matter of like strength, right? It was like, something's wrong. Like, I can't move. The idea of like brushing my teeth would seem incredibly difficult, talking to people, like one person, let alone like whatever, was like, it's terrifying, but then it would go away and kind of pass, and I would just think like, all right, well, that's done, and then I'd have periods of time where it was the opposite, and I felt like jubilant, and I'm talking a mile a minute and just like so excited and ecstatic to be alive, and so these spells, they just would last a couple days, and I just wasn't really thinking that much of it. They were scary to me, but this is why I mentioned the alcohol. Like, I had learned a long time ago how good drinking made me feel and how much it would take me away from like a sense of pain, a sense of shame, a sense of despair, whatever it is. So I had this like lifeline, and I called upon it. And I went to Dartmouth, so like it was everywhere. It was not hard. Wow, it's everywhere at a lot of colleges, but Dartmouth in particular, it was very easy to get into like a drinking culture. So when I felt depressed, like I went to it, and it helped. And I could feel, at least like for the rest of that day, like not like an ill-fitting puzzle piece, but like I could reconnect, And when I was feeling like high, drinking just made it more fun. So I just took to drinking like to kind of deal with any of the changes in my mood. And if there was like a CAPS office at my school, like we wouldn't have known where it was. I probably walked by it hundreds of times, but that wasn't like, those resources weren't what they are now. And the vocabulary, right? Like the education, the lexicon around like how we're feeling, how we're doing, what we might be struggling from. Like it wasn't really there, So, and I had good friends, like whatever, I had great buddies, but it wasn't a culture where it was like, hey, how you doing? I'm fucking sad, bro. Those were not conversations we had. The space wasn't opened up for that. Not because of anybody's, ill intention or ill will, but because of just a lack of education and information. People are brought up to think like not doing well is vulnerable or weak, right? And it's easy to kind of let that cycle perpetuate. So I go on and like, I'm really not telling anybody how I'm feeling, particularly when I'm depressed. Like, I really am just sort of hoping that it stops a few days at a time. But they keep getting worse, and they keep getting longer. So my first job, my first like long, serious job after college was in social work. I wanted to work with, I had always loved working with kids, particularly kids with needs or high risk. So I was working with kids in the foster care system and the juvenile justice system. It was a residential treatment. It was in Rhode Island, and it used wilderness therapy, like it was outdoors. So we lived with these kids there. It was an intense job, and it was hard. And I was there working really hard, but like trying to manage this. What I didn't know at the time was episodes of depression and mania. I had no idea. I would be, sitting talking to a kid, trying to help him, and my mind is racing at a speed that's terrifying. And I'm thinking the thoughts that you have when you're manic, like a lot of, and people have some great questions, by the way, and like one of them was some misconceptions. Mania doesn't always feel fun. There's like this euphoria thing that's like a key word associated with it, and like for sure, but it's not like, that's not how I would characterize it all the time. Sometimes it's terrifying. I would say if you've ever done like acid or mushrooms and had an awful, terrifying trip, that's more what it can be like, where you really, really want it to end. Nothing fun about it. And your mind is racing, and you cannot control what you're thinking about. And you might be thinking one moment, feeling great, and then suddenly you might be thinking, I want to jump in front of that car. I want to jump in front of that. I want to jump off that dead roof. I want to hurt myself. This is too scary. And that speeds up, and it speeds up, and it speeds up. And I was still silent about this. And I'm having these episodes that were lasting for like a day or two are now lasting for like a long time. And I'm just trying, and I'm actually doing good at work. If you're manic and like you don't need to sleep, I could just stay up and function pretty well. At least what I thought was functioning. I was a myth, but I was able to put in work. So like the camp thought I was great. And, they moved me up and made me it's called a master counselor. So I was responsible for like 30 kids, but I was absolutely coming undone at the seams. And it was just a matter of time. So one weekend, we worked 5 days and then had 2 days off. So it was 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, unless somebody was out or someone quit, 'cause people quit all the time. So I had been in group for 2 weeks by myself. So I was running a group of kids who'd all just gotten out of juvie by myself for 2 weeks. And we did great. We kicked ass. They was a tough group. I got them, we were rolling. We were making the beds. We were making it to Chuck Wagon on time, which is where we went, ate, food hall, all of the indicators that we were doing good. And I was thrilled. But I wasn't sleeping. The way I was getting to sleep every night was by drinking whiskey when I got back to my cabin. That put me to bed. And again, like I just didn't, smart dude, I didn't know anything. I didn't know that there was something seriously wrong that I needed to deal with. So I got off of work that weekend, and I was like high as a kite. I was so thrilled, and I still had all this energy, like that I could not burn through. And I'm like, okay, for my activity, I was by myself. For my activity today, I'm going to go for a 50-mile bike ride, which wasn't a thing that I did. I had a bike, but I wasn't a biker. So I went for this long bike ride, and I'm just powering through this ride, and I'm going to like the euphoria sensations. Yeah, I remember feeling like, and I write a lot about this, yeah, I did have that, you guys have probably seen this, like feeling like a god. I felt that very strange connection with the universe where like something divine is happening, but I'm just riding my fucking bike, just normal bike ride. Then I finished the bike ride and I'm not done. I still have so much energy. So I went to the track and I'm like, okay, I want to run a 5-minute mile. I've always wanted to run a 5-minute mile. Again, like not a runner. I just like had this weird level of energy. So I went and did it. And I still couldn't drain this battery. And I don't even know if I'm eating today, and I just can't run out of this manic energy. So I go into the gym and I'm lifting weights. I'm really just trying to put myself to sleep. And finally, on the way home, after spending all day expending, even after having an empty tank, expending more, I remember feeling quiet. Like for the first time in 2 weeks, my mind was quiet. I was like, oh, this is peaceful. I'm going to be able to sleep. I'm going to be able to go to sleep without drinking. This is great. I did it. And I fell asleep on the couch by myself. And I had, actually, I was in a relationship. So I had a girlfriend who you'll hear more about. And I had been trying to, imagine this. I'm having these thoughts, and I'm trying to carry on a relationship and, not tell someone what's wrong, Just imagine sitting next to someone who you're, intimate with, and, you're thinking, I'm going insane. How do I put on the mask of someone that's normal? And it's very stressful. So she had no idea what was going on. So I go to bed, and I wake up the next morning, and I had kind of gotten used to doing, I call it a systems check, when I wake up, and sort of all right, how am I doing? Am I feeling depressed? Am I feeling over the moon? Or hopefully, am I just feeling kind of normal today? And I woke up, and I knew within, seconds, this is the worst day of my life. I have never felt this terrified. I have never felt my mind race like this. And I've had bad episodes, and this is by far and away the scariest feeling I've ever had. And the thing about episodes, it's not your awareness that they have a beginning, middle, and an end, it's just completely gone. I don't know, what was that? Are we good? Okay. Okay. You don't know there's a beginning, middle, and an end. You really believe in that moment, even if you've had an episode, similar feeling 10 or 20 times, you believe that this will not end and this will be the way you feel forever. Your sense of your temporal sense, it's just gone. So I believed oh, this is going to be the way I feel for the rest of my life. And now I'm thinking I don't know that I want to be alive for the rest of my life. Just in this moment, I've been awake for a minute, and I have this, the only clarity I have is this. So I go and I'm trying to find my boss, because I need somebody, I'm freaking out, and I'm just someone put their hand on my shoulder or talk to me, something to take me out of this. And I go to his office, and he's like, oh, how was the weekend? And immediately I'm just sobbing, and he's he knows he's not taking this one. So he goes and he gets the counselor. He's like, Dave, I'll be back. Let me get Mike. Mike is the counselor for the kids who he sees there. He's going to get him to talk to me. So I'm in his office, and I'm like, I can't sit still. And so I go out, and I'm walking. I just have to move, and I go to this abandoned part of it was 3 campsites. There used to be 4. So we would go to the 4th one to have a smoke or chill or whatever. So I went there, and I was by myself. And I'm just thinking, again, I don't have the belief that this is going to end. I feel like I'm in a house that's burning, and it'll be easier to jump out the window than to just sit in it and burn. And we always had a knife on us. This is an outdoor wilderness therapy, right? So we had cut lashings and did all this stuff with a knife. And so I just got on my knees, and I took the knife out, and I'm holding it against my skin, and I'm watching it press down. And I'm thinking, this is the only fucking way that this pain stops. I can't wait this out. This is the only way this pain stops. And at that moment, Mike, the counselor who had been looking for me after my boss went and got him, I didn't even see him. He comes up from behind, and he grabs me, and he wrestles this knife out of my hand, and he puts me on the ground, the same way we would do a restraint on the kids. And I blacked out. Then the next thing I remember, I woke up in the hospital. This is that bright, shiny period of my life, graduating high school. And that is a goatee. I did that. This is the late 90s. This is a picture. I don't have a lot of pictures. You guys have to imagine, like, back then, we didn't take pictures with our phone. We had like a different device. And it was like 3.2 megapixel camera, and it was like pretty big. It had a little wrist strap. Like you didn't really take it out, So I don't have a lot of pictures, but this is just one that I have. And like, it terrifies me to look at it. I can see in my eyes, like, how sad I was, And drinking and smoking was like my way out of that. So I keep it, even though it's hard to look at. Oh, also late 90s, silver hoop earrings. We listen to Eminem, guys. So here we are. This is Butler Hospital in Providence, Rhode Island. And this is where I woke up. And I spent a couple weeks there in the psychiatric wing. And yeah, every day there was the first few days I was just talking to doctors every day, and I was medicated to antipsychotics. I remember Seroquel. I was catatonic. Like, they just put you to sleep. They're like, first things first, safety, right? Let's just make him a zombie. So, but within the first few days, I'm talking to doctors, and like after a few conversations and them understanding what had happened to me and what I'd gone through conversations with the counselor and with me, like, you're most likely suffering from bipolar disorder, these alternating phases of mania and depression, And I'm like, when you find out what's wrong, in a lot of cases, you're like, oh, good. I know why my knee's hurting. Cool. There's some steps I can take now. It's got a name and it's defined, I can. Tendinitis, great, I can deal with that. Now it's no longer a mystery. I didn't feel that. I felt angry. I felt something different. I was reluctant to like accept that there was anything that at the time, knowing what I knew and coming up the way I did, was like, no, that's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't have fucking disorder. No. I'm smart. I'm like, went to college. I'm working hard. I'm healthy. I'm tall. Like, I'm anything but disorder. So when I was there, like, I took the medication they gave me. One thing I knew was I never wanted to feel like I did that day again. That was terrifying. It's still the worst day of my life. And so I took the medication, but the groups and the sessions, I didn't connect with them. I told myself, like, hey, I'm passing through this. This is going to be like a one and done thing, like chicken pox. You get it once, then you're good to go. I knew a lot of stuff, but I didn't know that was just an irrational thought. I just thought I was going to roll with it. And so I came out and I had an instruction manual. They're like, at that time I had an SSRI, a mood stabilizer, and an antipsychotic. And they're like, I had my instruction manual of what to take every day. They're like, take these, 2 of these, 1 of these, get sleep, drink water, don't do drugs and alcohol. Those can really trigger onsets of episodes. I'm like, all right, enough of that. I'll do the other things, but like, don't touch the alcohol, doc. So I'm out, and I go back to work, and like, still the only person who knew now was Leanne, who's my girlfriend, and she came to see me, and like, I'll spoil the ending a little bit. She's my wife now. Yeah, she's at home up there with our kid right now, and this was like the first year of our relationship, This is how she got to know me. And I told her, I had to, and I told my best friend Tom, and then, the counselor knew. And I wish I could say that that was the beginning, of treatment and recovery, but it wasn't. It was an inflection point where things got much, much worse. And I knew how to self-medicate. I liked that better. I didn't like treatment. I didn't like feeling like I was talking about my problems. I didn't like being vulnerable. I didn't like having any association with something called a disorder or an illness, especially a mental illness, right? And so I went back to doing what I did. I tried for a little bit, but when things get hard, I started drinking. And now I'm on medication. And so when I get drunk, it's very different. When I was drinking before, it was just silly season, kind of laughing, kind of giggly drunk and pass out and normal shit. But it was different mixing it with these medications. There was a lot of anger, there was a lot of pain, there was a lot of volatility. And that came through. We moved back to San Francisco after we finished working there. We each worked there for a couple years, and we moved back to the city. And I'm like, let me get, I'm just trying to find a job, something in business. Didn't want to do social work anymore. Just wanted to put this all in the rear view. But now I'm in the city, and it's in college, there's alcohol everywhere, and it's easy. And I'm using it again and again as a lifeline. It was the way I helped myself feel better when I needed to. I had fun when I was feeling manic, and I felt safe, and my mind quieted when I was feeling depressed and despair. And this went on, and things got worse. I started getting arrested. I started fighting a lot. Went to jail 3 times. This is I'm in my 20s. And I'm I just graduated from an Ivy League college. What the fuck am I doing? What's going on? But instead of thinking you don't think that way. You're not oh man, what am I doing? You start blaming, fuck the cops. That was bullshit, man. And fuck my friends who don't want to hang out with me, who think it's getting a little bit too much. I just need different friends, Eventually it got to a point where I really believed that alcohol could be my partner. It was very loyal to me. It never judged me at all. It never took a night off. It never said, I don't want to hang out. You're a little out of control. It never said hey, you're being belligerent. That was a fucking trigger word back then. If someone tells you belligerent, so I'll show you fucking belligerent. And I just believe things were getting so bad that I'm getting to the point of I just ride off into the sunset like this. The inflection point came when Leanne told me that she, despite her compassion and despite her knowing who I really was, that she didn't know if she could watch this up close anymore. It's I love you, but I don't know that I can watch this up close anymore. And I thought I was done. I felt I was hanging off a ledge with one finger, just kind of waiting for something to knock it off, I only go to the psychiatrist when I need a refill prescription. Another person I blame was my psychiatrist. This guy that's trying to help, And I just in my mind, he didn't understand. He was an asshole. He one time wouldn't see me after I spent the night in jail the weekend before, and had gotten into a fight in jail. After getting into a fight that got me into jail. So I'm all fucked up. I look like shit, and I had an appointment on Tuesday, and I'm 10 minutes late. And it's a Kaiser, so they're always late. And I'm this is fine, And I go into the thing, and they send a signal to the office, and he's supposed to let you in, but I'm in there, and nobody's coming in. He's not opening the door. And like finally, I start like rapping on the door, and he like opens it like a sliver, and just sees me, and he's like, no, like we're not doing this. Like, you know how to make an appointment. You know you have to be on time. I don't see people late. I've told you this 100 times. And he locked the door in my face, and I'm banging on his door in a hospital, and he's telling me from the other side he's going to call security. And it's right around the time that Leanne told me, I don't know, was planning to leave or that she needed to leave, and I was done. And the last night, everybody talks about like that rock bottom point. I want to be clear about rock bottom. Like, rock bottom is when you die. I didn't hit rock bottom. People saved me so that I didn't hit rock bottom. So I use that term like very, very cautiously, right? Because like if you hit rock bottom, you don't get to talk about it. But I got close, and I went out. It was like, at this point, it was just like very difficult for people to be with me. I would just kind of go out by myself, like take pills, and I'm like taking pills now. So I'd take 2 Vicodin and start drinking and go out by myself and like make a friend for the night or an enemy for the night, whatever. I go out, and like at this point, the way I describe it is like I wanted to like drown in a sea of alcohol. I wanted to see how deep it goes. And like when you're drinking a ton, like almost every day, you actually start to black out easier. Like your memory fades quicker, which is sort of counterintuitive. Like you do build up a tolerance, but you also black out and remember less. And it's the only night in like all of these, decade and a half that I'm drinking a ton. It's the only night that I can't put anything together. You know how you always remember like a little detail? Just like, oh, like this is where we got food. And then you kind of stitch your night back together, I had nothing. There's just like pages missing from this book. And I had gone out, and I woke up in my apartment, and I'm like terrified because I have no idea where I was. And I'm cut and I'm bruised. And I look like, did I fall down the stairs? Did I get into another fight? Like, I have no idea. Like, but I'm hurt. And I've got blood on my clothes, and I'm starting to like, I don't know what's happening. Now I'm starting to wonder, I'm like, how did I get home? That question, how did I get home? Because I drove my car there, and driving drunk was like, it didn't bother me at all. It's about the most dangerous thing you can do, and it didn't bother me at all. But now I'm like, oh man, I was driving like this, and I can't remember a thing. So then I start freaking out, and I'm like going and see if like I drove home. So I'm walking around the neighborhood looking for my car, just hoping to God I don't see my car. And I get to walk like 3 or 4 blocks, and I see like the silver bumper, and I recognize it, and my heart just sinks. And I go up to my car, and there's like blood on the handle. There's blood inside my car, and now I'm freaking out. And I don't know what happened. And so I'm going inside, and I'm like loading my slow computer, waiting, trying to get to see if like there's any reported hit and runs. Like that's where I was at. And I like reached the conclusion that like, okay, I didn't hit anybody. Like this is my blood. I don't know what's happening. But like I had a moment of clarity as if there wasn't a million opportunities before this. But it became clear to me in that moment, this simple thought, like, dude, this isn't about you. You were gonna fucking kill somebody. You were gonna really hurt Leanne. You were gonna hurt a stranger. You're gonna be the reason someone gets that phone call that there's been an accident. Like, this has to stop. And if it's not for you, like, for the community around you. And like, I just latched onto it. I had a moment where I could see something, and I I knew I couldn't I wasn't going to let myself talk myself out of it. So I tell Leanne, I'm like, just don't leave. Like, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop. I have no idea. I don't know how. And I don't have a plan, but like, I'm going to do this. Like, give me a shot. And she does. And so, like, the next morning, she takes me to rehab, like the chemical dependency recovery program, Kaiser, over on Fillmore. And I met a counselor there. And I tell her what's going on. I still look awful. And, you know, she's been in this work for a long time, and she's seen a lot of people come through these doors. And after I told her about, like, the last 10 years of my life, she looked at me straight up, and she said, David, you're not going to survive. This woman I did not know just told me I was going to die. And I believed her. I knew that she was right. And that night was the last night I ever had a drink. And it was the day that I started to take my health seriously. It was the beginning of a long road to where I am now. The removing drugs and alcohol was like the first step. Somebody had this question, like, how do you treat both? Like, you don't. You really can't. It's very difficult to treat a mental illness with an addiction. You don't know what you're treating, because alcohol affects your mood. So how do you really treat and work on a mood disorder if you're constantly like plunging it into like volatility? But I started to do the long work, and just through like removing that as the first step, and then being able to take my appointments with my psychiatrist seriously, and then getting psychotherapy and learning a little bit at a time. And it wasn't quick. Like, I'll make this part quick, but it wasn't quick. Learning cognitive behavioral therapy skills, learning what to do, learning about the illness, keeping myself healthy, and just experiencing like the success that comes with that. Not success in the typical way, but success in like, I feel good right now. What am I doing? Like, I don't want to mess this up. I'm taking my medication the right way. I'm not using drugs and alcohol. I'm going to therapy, and I'm like feeling good. Don't mess with this. And I just kept layering days and days and days of that on top. And that all started about 15 years ago. And that's Leanne. That's a picture from when we both worked at the camp together. And I don't know, you can just see there that she's taking care of me. And this is us now, or that's 2 years ago. That's Reza. There's Reza taking a picture of us taking a picture. And yeah, I mean, life is good now. And then the part I want to get to next is like, it's all about the self-care. It's like none of this just happened. This is all about the work of understanding how, from what mental health is to me and what I need to achieve it and what my treatment needs to be, and like punching in every day and doing the work of it. I want to go back to Butler real quick and introduce you to another person.
We told ourselves that we were there by accident. Involuntarily committed, but only out of frivolous caution in a delicate world. Every day, away from the rest of the patients, we walked the same path around the hospital. Our words skipped and bounced aimlessly. Anything but the truth. One day on our walk, she stopped suddenly. A thorn from a white rose bush caught the sleeve of her sweater, exposing a tormented wrist. The scars cried out, before she quickly imprisoned them again. In that moment, mere seconds, yet imminently enduring, I saw a story of pain and anguish etched into her skin. Our vapid exchanges, the indifferent words that bounced and skipped, gave way to silence. We'd spoken every day, yet only knew each other's shadows. I never asked her who she really was or how she came to be there. We didn't speak of the sorrow that weighed heavily on us, or the truth about our despair.
Now, you guys know all this. I don't need to tell you guys these things, but like they deserve a reminder every once in a while, and just kind of a slap in the face about the reality of mental illness. And the piece that gets me that I'm going to try to finish with is here. Half of people aren't getting treatment. So Justine in the hospital and I, we didn't understand why we were there. We didn't accept why we were there. We were both from different communities, but both from communities where like, this wasn't things that weren't things we talked about. This wasn't a vocabulary that we had. We just thought we were passing through. It's like at this point in my life, this is, and I'm saying my treatment because everyone's treatment can be different. But there is medication and therapy. You know, those are like established, right, to some extent. But what I really started to understand is these bottom two pieces. It's community and self-care. And what that means to me, community, you need relationships. You need relationships with people that understand where there are boundaries, where there's open and clear communication, where there isn't emotional abuse or manipulation that induces stress, right? That doesn't help manage mood. Supportive places, schools, organizations, and companies where there's a welcome place for everybody with a mental health challenge, with a mental illness, with a neurodivergence, and not just a safe place for it, but active support, education, making sure that the rest of the community around them, the 4 out of 5 that are not experiencing a mental health challenge, are open as well. Teaching people, like going back to college for me, like there were resources, I don't want to put it all in my school, but that information wasn't there where we needed it, when we needed it. Encouraging vulnerability and reducing stigma. That's just work that all of us can do in our community, in our organizations, in our families, in our groups of friends, to make it okay for that question that I could never ask of my friend, like, hey, are you okay? No? What's going on? It just starts with that. The self-care piece, I mean, this part to me, is like, and we talked about this, now this all seems obvious to me. I'm like, well, yeah, go figure. Like, of course, like, I want to eat well. Like, healthy brain function. Oh, I like, my brain has issues with the emotion centers and the control centers. Cool, like, let me make sure I have, like, some dopamine and serotonin levels that are balanced. Let me not do drugs and alcohol, which deplete that. Let me get 8 hours of sleep. These are, like, things that seem obvious to me now, but they're really, really, really difficult to embrace. Like, it took me 10 years to even get to the first one, And that wasn't like, oh, cool, I got it. That was like the start of a long road. And I'm still working on all this stuff. What's the 10 minutes? What do we got? Okay. I'm going to finish with a quick reading from my book, which I have like 30 of in this bag, if anyone would like one. And if I run out, I have like a little thing with a QR code. All right. So I'm going to read a little bit. I've now gone over a decade since that last drink and embracing treatment for the first time. I have my health, a thriving business, and a loving family, Raw and overwhelming gratitude wash over me every day. Sometimes I still don't believe that this is real, that I'm living a dream, one born of a nightmare. I'm lucky I survived. I'm lucky that Leanne stayed with me, and I'm luckier than ever to see her beautiful reflection in that little baby boy. A few weeks into his first year of preschool, he came home especially excited one day. He was skipping around the house with long, sandy hair flowing behind him. And as usual, he rattled off the new word he had learned. Usually he had like an animal or a shape or colors, and he shouts, "I am me." And at that, an unexpected exhilaration rushed through me. His radiant smile and the outstretched arms and the joyful confidence made my heart swell. He owned those words, his first decree of identity and self-belief. Oh, that we could all be so bold as to flash an untamed smile, reach up to the sky, and shout, "I am me." So yes, baby boy, be you indeed. Let your joy run wild whenever you see beauty around you. Be vulnerable with others and lead them with your heart. Give your strength when a friend needs it, but borrow theirs when yours is depleted. Be troubled and hurt. Be afflicted and suffer. But spurn the dubious notions of weakness and boldly ask for help. Set boundaries that make you safe and shout no when others tread over them. Be grateful for everything, but forgive yourself for wanting more. Make mistakes, a lot of them, but let shame and guilt flow smoothly through you and out like water, and discover the opportunity to learn and grow. With those daring, brash words, our 2-year-old rocked the ground under my feet. I could see my whole life, a child scared and alone, a teenager fighting for another chance, and a young man writhing in pain about to break under the weight of it. I could see the despair I'd suffered through and the love that I'd fought for. I could see myself and all those like me. I could see who we are. We are recovering alcoholics, one day from another drink, if we falter, but a lifetime from one too, if we choose courage. We are bipolar, a cunning and maddening disorder, but we bless the virtues it has led us to, vulnerability and compassion. We are our family's troubled children, forever adorned with the scars of our lineage, but we are our brilliant deliverance, with love for our own sons and daughters extricated from an ancestral pain. We are enterprising, tenaciously building business and community, but we are novice, waking up every day with self-doubt and no fucking clue. We are fit, fast, and fierce, but only compared to the last iteration of ourselves. We are phoenixes, rising from the despair of a former life. And yet, we are only just beginning. The fire rises still. I am thankful that I first picked up that bottle, and I'm glad to be vexed by this disorder. I do not regret the past, and I will never relent to shame. Every challenge and every obstacle led me to that beautiful moment. I am me, you say? Yes, my love. Goddamn fucking right you are. And that is that. All right, I have 9 minutes. Okay, I got some questions. First of all, thank you. I thought I'd get like 3. There was like 50. So, and they're all wonderful and really, really thoughtful. Like I told you, I was actually like, the thought that went into them and the care and the knowledge and intelligence was moving to me. I wish I could answer them all. I think a lot of them are hopefully kind of answered there, but there's a few that I wanted to touch on, and I highlighted them in blue, and then I printed out black and white. So, see what's happening here. Okay, Yasmin. Is there a Yasmin in here? Hey. Is there something you had 2 questions, but one of them, is there something you wish more people understood about addiction? Yeah, like so much. That it is really fucking hard, and it's not as simple by any means as, well, hey, just stop. Just like stop smoking. Just like stop overeating. Just stop drinking. Like, no, because we're medicating something. There's nothing easy about it. I'm an incredibly strong person. I know that. But it took me a decade to do the thing that I knew I needed to do. Every single day I knew I shouldn't drink, on some level. If it took me 4,000 days to get to that point, it's really hard. What are the other blue ones? Fuck. Rhiannon. Hey, 3 great questions. Okay, one of them, what was the hardest part about writing your book? Was there anything that was difficult to fully convey into words to truly show the gravity of what you were experiencing? Yes, it was difficult. But to be totally honest with you, this is not difficult for me to tell you guys this stuff. It was difficult when I was trying to measure how much I should share. At a point in my life as I got more and more comfortable talking and realizing, hey, if I'm vulnerable, you'll be vulnerable. And that's going to help me and it's going to help you. But how much should I share? Some of this stuff is scary. I'm going to tell people about when I wanted to put a fucking gun to my head? No. I'll leave that out. But it became incredibly easy when I said, you know what? This is just true. And I'm a human. And there are millions of people who have gone through what I'm going through. And my life is it's unique in some ways, but it's not that different. A lot of people have gone through this. And once I realized stop measuring it, just say fucking everything. That's way easier. I got Rafaela. I like this one. Oh, okay. As someone with dual diagnosis, how do you combat stigma? Sharing your story publicly definitely makes it easier to give people perspective into what happened and how you got to where you are. However, it can still be difficult to explain yourself to people that have biases too strong. So how do you deal with that? I say, I don't give a fuck. That is exactly how I deal with it. So writing this book took 7 years. And for a long time, I wasn't actually sure if I was going to go through with it. I knew I was going to finish writing it, but am I really going to publish this? Should I use my name? Should I use a fake name? I had these thoughts. And it's exactly what you said. I'm I'm thinking things wow, I got my business. What if some of my professional contacts, what if they see me as maybe someone they don't want to work with? And then, and then I'm who cares? Fine. Because there's someone else that is going to be my brother went through that. This is someone. I appreciate his honesty because I actually know someone that went through that. And so you just stop giving a shit. And friends, if I had any friends that aren't comfortable with this, they're long gone. And the ones I've got now, they're ride or die. So I don't give a fuck. And that's very freeing, I would say. Get a couple more here. Carolee? Okay, I either messed it up or she's not here. What inspired you to write this book? I had exactly one goal, and it's the same goal I had coming in and talking to you guys today. And everything I do in this space, I have the same goal, to help one or more people. And I figured that was a worthy goal and worth spending every weekend for 7 years writing. If one person came away with something better, one or more, that was enough for me. Oh, I like this one from Gabriel. My man. Okay. So, what have been the most important skills that you've learned in therapy? If you implement them on a regular basis, how so? I've learned so much, and I've had some amazing therapists, and I've had one for the past 3 years. we do a reality check. What's symptom and like what's you? Can you step back? I do this all the time. Oh wait, Dave, step back. Is this like a spiral? Is this like a swell of emotion that is like not you, but symptomatic? And being able to step back every day and do reality checks in different moments when I need to has been extremely helpful. And I don't think that has anything to do with bipolar. That's just a thing that we can do. Let's just step out of ourselves. Like, am I losing it right now about something that happened at school, a test that was failed, or a friend that moved away or parted ways? Okay, like this is hard, but it's also something that everyone has dealt with and has gotten through it, and I will too. It's just a reality check about what's life and death. And so many good ones. Oh man. Okay, Taylor. No Taylor here. Okay. Well, Taylor wrote a great question. What impacts do you hope your book has on the mental health community? The vulnerability and the stigma piece. Like, a beautiful world to me would be one where, like, my mental health challenge is no more taboo than, like, your torn meniscus. That it's all just the same shit. That we can look at all these things as physiological challenges and not personal ones. My mind is an organ of my body. Why should it be looked at differently when it's struggling compared to diabetes or anything that can afflict us, where we look at with like a strictly clinical perspective, hopefully. So that's it. And I figured the more people talking about it moves that whole thing forward to where, someone who heard it makes them more comfortable talking about it. And it's a chain of reaction. And what you guys are doing, you guys have all decided to dedicate your education to this field so that you can help people and put them in a position to learn what they need and embrace treatment quicker. And the fact that you know what you know and that you're going to go out and put that into the world, that's an amazing thing. So I guess writing it was just my way of trying to contribute, just like you guys are. And that's all.